Thank you, Mr. Chris Jansen. We're going to move on now to A3, our call to order, and I'll call this meeting to order February 23rd, 2026, Huntington County Community Schools Board of Trustees. On to A4, roll call. Mrs. Gray.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mr. McClellan? Is absent. Mr. Melcher?
Here.
Mr. Wall?
Here.
Mr. Carl?
Here.
Mrs. Miller? Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Moving on to A5, revision of the agenda. Mr. Brimberry.
Mr. Allen, we have no revisions for tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. Moving on to B1, public comment from visitors. I have one person signed up to speak to the board, address the board, Jennifer Woods. If you could just state your name and tell us what's on your mind.
Good evening. Is that recording? Okay. My name is Jennifer Woods. I live right here in town, and I understand on the agenda today you'll be discussing revisions to the student handbooks. And so I've come this evening to request that the student handbooks for all grade levels be revised to include language to inform parents that religious objections or medical exemptions may be submitted in lieu of immunization records, as is allowed by state law. So I drafted some suggested language, and I've included the state code and examples of the exemption forms. That's all I have to say. May I leave this with one of you?
Please. Thank you, Mrs. Woods. Thank you, Mrs. Woods. Anyone else wish to come forward and address the board tonight? Knowing you have come forward, we're going to move on to C1, MOU for Next Career Coaching Grant. It's going to be Tiffany.
I don't see Principal Drummond here, but I'll be glad to pinch hit here. 1 second. Let me pull it up here, Mr. Allen. Okay, Board, this is an action item. Principal Drummond has brought forward a memorandum of understanding. I know that in your content you've had a chance to review this. The purpose of the memorandum of understanding outlines the collaborative partnership between Region 8 Education Service Center and Huntington North High School for the implementation of career coaching framework aimed at enhancing career readiness among students. Signing the MOU gives Region 8 permission to access ScholarTrack to report required data to the state. This partnership is established to ensure both parties work effectively. This is, Mrs. Gregg, correct me, an annual, I believe, in terms of this agreement. And again, we're hoping Principal Drummond is doing just fine, but she has given this, and I know you've had a chance to review it. So this is an annual agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. I'm guessing she is going to lose her mind when she finds out she missed the meeting. So I would entertain a motion reference this item.
Recommend approval of the memorandum of understanding for Next Career Coaching Grant as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Any questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none, we will vote on the motion. Motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to C2, Clinical Affiliation Agreements, Student Training Program.
Board, for your consideration, action item tonight, the Clinical Instructor Independent Contractor Agreements. This is our annual agreements of Medical CNA Agreement with Heritage of Huntington, Waters of Huntington, and Medical CNA Agreement at Heritage Point. And so these are annual agreements based on recommendation by Principal Drummond.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. I'll entertain a motion reference this item.
Motion to approve the clinical affiliation agreements between HCCS and Extended Care Facility Partners as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Any questions or comments prior to voting?
I have a question on this. It says that it will be entered into on the first day of January of 2026. Is there a reason why we're not doing it in between the school years, or?
Aaron, I'd have to be honest with you, I'd have to check with Tiffany and get back with you on that. I do know it's an annual agreement, and I would have to check on the date, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yep, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. I would also like to say this program I know has been around for a bit. I know someone that's actually staying at the Heritage in Warren, and a few of these students are caring for her. And so I really do appreciate this program. It is absolutely a career for someone. Anything further? Now let's vote on the motion. That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to C3, Clinical Instructor Independent Contractor Agreements.
Mr. Allen and Board, on behalf of Principal Drummond, Director of Career and Technology Education, these are 4 action items for the Clinical Instructor Independent Contractor Agreements. These are also annual, based on the number of people she needs. Virginia Beekman, Stephen Cayley, Lila Lane, Whitney Smoltreed, and Michaela Small. And these are, I know you've had a chance to review those, but these are Tiffany's recommendations for those agreements.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. I'll entertain a motion reference this item.
Motion to approve the clinical instructor independent contractor agreements as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Again, any questions or comments before we vote?
Are they independent contractors just because of the nature and the limited amount of work that they're doing? Is that why they're independent contractors?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And I believe most of them have, I mean, I know that like Steve Cayley has been with the hospital for years. And so I think this is kind of on top of what they
That's
already
correct.
do.
Many of them have other ones, and they also help us. Yep, good question.
Any further questions or comments? Let's vote on this motion. That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to C4, 2026-2027 Student Handbooks. Mr.
Board,
Peters.
tonight, Board, tonight we were in our second reading of the student handbooks. We have Stephanie Rogers here, Assistant Principal at the high school, Rachel Yarger, our Principal at Crestview, and Elizabeth Kitchen, Salamone Principal. And my question is this: I've not had a chance, I think it's Mrs. Woods that came and shared with us. I've not had a chance to look at the document that she has provided for us. Obviously, this is a second read. We're asking for your approval, but I will go with your wishes if you would want us to review that documentation that she's presented to see whether or not that is something we would want to add to the handbook. And again, just in all fairness, to our public and Mrs. Wood being here sharing, to look at that document and bring that back to you in March.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
So what would the difference be if we approved it per se, and then the administration found that they liked it or whatever, and then we amended it? Or would it be
Absolutely.
easier?
Yeah, absolutely. That can be done. What I would tell you is thank you for sharing tonight, and I would bring that forward to our administrative team. I would also, even if you approve tonight's second reading, and I would also obviously have council review that as we do all of our handbooks. If that has merit that we bring back, you can amend at a future meeting the one item, but you can pass the rest of it tonight if you so choose.
Mr. Wiley, do you have anything at all at this point to add or not? Okay.
Yeah, either way is fine.
Then I will entertain a motion reference approval of the handbooks.
Motion to approve the 26-27 student handbooks as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Any further questions or comments? Mrs. Woods, I just want to say I do appreciate your time tonight, and this will be considered for sure. And I'd like to thank our helpers that looked at all the handbooks. Your efforts are not unnoticed.
Board, one of the things I would also, Mr. Peters has tonight, but we have also altered, I believe, from the first reading to the second, correct, Jay?
Correct. Legal counsel has advised us to update our handbook, the revision for FERPA, and our annual parent notification, and this change is a part of this second reading. So we've been advised by legal counsel, and we have made that change in each level of our handbooks.
Board, I would also like to thank one of our parents in our community has come forward to collaborate with us on that process. Gave us a couple things to look at. We passed that through with legal counsel, and we feel like the final version that you now have is legally compliant, but also I appreciate the collaboration with our community.
Mr. Peters, could you tell us again what FERPA is?
Sure. Free, oh gosh. Put me on the spot.
Or any of the ladies here that know more.
Free and appropriate, something free and appropriate, oh gosh. Family, free, what is it, guys?
Family Education Rights and Privacy Act.
There you go.
We had a FERPA policy.
Next time, warn me ahead of time, Mr. Allen. No, it's all good.
Board, we did have a FERPA notice. It's been in the handbook for years here. This is just an updated version based on legal counsel and a little collaboration with our family as well. And also our annual notice was updated, which is a link in our handbook that goes out for the annual notice to parents, and that was updated as well since the first reading to the second.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. Sorry about that, Mr. Peters.
That's a sign you need to retire. That's a good sign. There's your sign right there.
It's my fault. Sorry about that. Anything further? All right, let's vote on this motion. Motion passes 6-0 with the caveat that I'm sure that this is going to be reviewed. We'll move on to C5, 2026 summer school.
We have here this evening, we've got Dr. Deggets here representing our high school. We have also Elizabeth Kitchen representing our elementary school. And so tonight we're coming to you asking for your approval to have summer school for 2026 at Huntington North High School and also summer iRead at Flint Springs. And so we'll have Mrs. Kitchen just share out briefly and then Dr. Deggets.
So summer school for 2026, summer school proposal, I'm just requesting permission to hold summer school and then permission to post the positions. We estimated at 20 elementary teachers, which is right around $92,736. But a lot of this is the state reimburses us for. So hours are from 8 to noon, June 8th through 26th, 15 days. Teachers will be paid for 4 hours of instruction and a half hour of teacher prep, and it will be held at Flint Springs. And this, again, is for the students that did not pass iRead or at risk for that. So that's what I'm asking permission for summer school for the elementary.
Thank you, Mrs. Kitchen. I'll entertain a motion, reference this item.
I recommend approval of the 2026 summer school as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Is there a second?
So Dr. Deggets is lumped in with this one, with elementary. Do you want to do them
Yes.
separately?
Well, he didn't jump up here quick enough. And then I skipped him. My fault.
We would be happy to allow all summer school programming to be at the elementary schools if they would prefer to supervise. No, in all seriousness, we appreciate the opportunity. Summer school for the high school is just a critical component, not only to help bolster skill deficiencies, but also to recapture credits. For so many of our students, it is a chance to get back on track credit-wise. So I believe you do have the proposal, but a quick summary for the high school. It is held in the month of June. It is Monday through Friday, so 20 total school days from 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. It will be held once again here at Huntington North High School, whereas last year we did have to relocate to Crestview Middle School because of the renovation and construction work. The proposal from a financial and budget standpoint does indicate 25 high school teachers. I will tell you, we've never had that many. That is a high-end estimate just to give you kind of a worst-case financial picture. The other thing that I would tell you in regard to how we approach things at the high school, we very much keep it to our core academic areas, and then anything beyond that would be through our online program as needed, just to provide some breadth to programming and course options. Therefore, all of our courses as we know it, as long as the state stays consistent, would be reimbursable through what they offer. We're also very conscientious of our student-to-teacher ratio to make sure we hit that threshold, but we are very excited to be able to offer this. We will provide this opportunity to our teachers pending board approval and a competitive process where they express interest, starting first with our licensed teachers here at the high school.
Thank you, Dr. Deggets. Sorry about that, brother. Now, I am looking for a second to Mrs. Miller's.
And then I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. I will absolutely entertain some comments and discussion.
So this may not be for them, but this may be for you guys, and you may not have that answer. But as I read through the document, it notes that food service will be district paid.
Yes.
And transportation will be district paid, but there's no dollar figures associated with that. Do we have rough estimates, and where will that come from?
So yeah, transportation is not covered through the reimbursable piece that they were just talking about. And the state does reimburse for those core academic subjects. We have to submit a report. We do a beginning report and then an estimate, and then we do a final report. It's right around, I would say, close to 90%. I'm just ballparking it for you on what we get reimbursed. The other piece of that we cannot cover or that's not reimbursed through the state would come out of the education fund.
Okay, even the food service, or would it come out of the food service fund?
Food service, I need to check into that one, but it should be a summer feeding program, which should be then feeding right back into the 800, I call it 800 fund. I call it by fund numbers sometimes. I have
Sadly,
it.
I know what you're talking about. So.
Okay. Yes, it should go into that, but I can look into that further.
Okay, I'm just curious, just so we can have a full picture. I know that the total on the package would be great, but just nice to know whole figures, what we're doing. And then, yeah, if we could just get an idea of what we've been reimbursed in the past, just an idea too, so.
Yes, absolutely.
And Mr. Allen, we'd also like permission to post these positions as well. So you're going to be approving the approval of our summer school program, but then also the opportunity, starting tomorrow, that we could post these positions for the high school and for the elementary.
Well, then I probably need to amend the motion, or not? We might as well, just for safety's sake.
Right. I recommend the approval of the 2026 summer school as presented. I also recommend the posting of the positions associated with the summer school program.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller.
I'll agree to that as a second.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Any further comments or discussion before we vote? Thank you, Mr. Peters. Hearing none, let's vote on this motion.
While we're voting, Dr. Deggets, do you guys provide transportation at the high school, or is that on the students' staff?
We do provide transportation, but a lot of students do drive as well, so it's similar to the normal school year where we get a little bit of both.
Cool, thank you.
That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to C6, 2026 Summer Band. Mr. Peters.
Dr. Deggets, if you'd like to go ahead and share about summer band for 2026.
I would. The quick and easy description is no change. We are standard and status quo from several years prior to this. As you may know, our band is a very intense program, and they really have to capitalize on the summer timeframe because, like a lot of activities and sports, they start right away. They do summer band camp and also partner with the middle schools to create a cohesive 6 through 12 program. And so, again, similar, actually the exact same as previous years. There's a request of 4 stipends for this, each at $2,000. Although there are names attached to it on the proposal, those are simply to indicate who have filled those positions before. The staff will be set, similar to other summer school positions, after spring break, pending background checks and all of those things. To be transparent, we would expect that our 2 high school band directors are a part of that. It would only make sense. So we would expect Mr. Pettick and Mr. Walters to be 2 of those 4 as they oversee the entire program. The other 2 positions, I guess you could call them free agents, where they will help work through that process with my guidance and also approval at the end of the day for board approval. So similar to the other positions, I think we're asking for approval to post the stipends and approve those, and then the names will be filled in at a later date.
Thank you, Dr. Deggets. I'll entertain a motion. I reference 2026 Summer Band Program.
Do we need to, so we need to post that as well then too, as part of this?
I believe that's typically been done, so
Yeah.
yes.
Recommend approval for the 2026 summer band program as presented and the posting of those positions.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Any questions or comments for Dr. Deggets before we vote?
So they're just getting paid the stipend, even though there's extra tons of hours in there?
Yeah, this stipend does account for the extra because especially our high school band directors receive certain stipends for their extracurricular commitments as band directors. And so this helps account for that. They do document the hours that they serve in the summer to help make sure that the documentation is squared away each year.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Let's vote on the motion. That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to D 1 through 8, the consent agenda. Mr. Brimberry.
Mr. Allen and Board, before I get to the consent agenda, I also want to recognize Dr. Diggett's, his team. I see Ms. Brown's here, the teachers, the administrators, and Success Academy Virtual School. Very impressive number. We'll share with you at one of the work sessions on how they achieved that. But Russ, I believe just under 94% on your graduation rate from last year at Huntington North High School, and that is an amazing task done by a lot of wonderful people, and I'm really, really proud, and you'll see on a work session in our future of maybe some of the programs that we like to bring forward for you to see that are different buckets that they allow these kids to be successful. So I congratulate you and your team, Russ. On the consent agenda, Board, for your action items tonight, as you can see several items on there, field trips, professional leave requests, and so on. I would draw your attention to number 6 on the adjunct teacher agreement. That is a corrective action on a pay change, and that one's 6 on there. Number 7, request for donations, $9,959.58. I am just overwhelmed. I'm going to say it till I can't say anything on the generosity of the Huntington community for our school system. It's just unmatched. Any place I've been of the 4 corporations, but draw attention to a couple things there. I see that there were $2,400 awarded from the Huntington County Community Foundation for the purchase of handbells for the Husky Ringers Bell Choir. I see several other items on there. One of them, Ironclad Excavating, large plotter printer for scanning ability being donated to our school corporation. Numerous schools with donations: Riverview, Crestview, Salamone, Lincoln, Horace Mann, Flint Springs, and others, and the maintenance department. So for your action item tonight, the consent agenda, which includes several of the items I've missed, are mentioned, as including the adjunct teacher agreement and donations that we discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. I'll entertain a motion in reference to consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Any questions or comments about the consent agenda, any of the items there? If anyone would like to pull an item, vote on it separately. Hearing none, we will vote on the consent agenda. That motion passes 6-0. Move into Finance, E1, Financial Reports, December 2025. We are excited to see Mrs. Babcock here tonight with us. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. It's very nice, instead of being virtually. So we have quite a few different items we were going to cover. So first of all, we're going to start with the December month-end items. And as you'll see for the Education Fund, closer. Sorry. I got to get used to it here, but where I need to keep this. So can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. All right. So moving on with December financials, if you like the Education Fund, you'll see that our revenue came in at 99.96% as we anticipated or projected, and then we expended 87.07% of those expenditures as projected. And we stayed within our budget, so that is great. You will see that we did have a transfer there from our education fund to our operations fund. It was a little less than what we anticipated originally in doing during the budget. When we do that in the budget, we allow for us to do up to a certain amount. It doesn't necessarily mean that we will automatically transfer that unless it's necessary. The goal is to keep both of those funds, the education fund and the operations fund, healthy. In order to do so, then we take a snapshot of that and then decide on how much we really need to transfer over. And in this case, we did not transfer over the full amount that we anticipated spending. As you can see, though, we did go down in our overall cash balance here. As you'll see, there's like 1.7 to the negative and a deficit there. But overall, we stayed within our track. We're still a really healthy cash balance. So that's for the education fund. Moving on to the debt service fund. That one is just pretty straightforward as it is. You know, it's levy driven. So we have that there where we covered all of our expenses in December. They are paid, the money comes in December, and we pay that out in December for our bonds. So right on target with that for the end of the year. Moving on to the operations fund, and this is the one that gets a little trickier as time goes on and with SEA 1 and all of that, that we'll start to see a little more of a struggle with in the future. But for this month or year end, actually, we still came out quite fine, honestly. 91% of our total revenues projected. Some of that is because of that circuit breaker. When you hit that circuit breaker, that levy that you're anticipated to receive, you will not receive, just because that's just how it's set up. And then for the expenditures, we were at 82.63%. And then you can see there where we have the transfer and up in the revenue section. That was over on the other report for the education fund. And then, again, we're coming in pretty strong here, staying within our budget. And I feel like it's a positive year end. For the rainy day fund, you will see that there is just the budget, what was budgeted and what was being expended for the year. And that closes that out for the year. Moving on to the education fund historical comparison. If you go down to December on that one, you can see that we are at $15,156,145. As compared to the previous year, we are down, as I mentioned in the previous report. But overall, that's still a very healthy cash balance for the education fund. And then moving on to the operations fund, you can see we're at $4,113,071 cash balance as of December, the end of December. Again, that's down again from our previous year, but it is still healthy. We just need to be careful in the future, projecting out into the future to not make that a habit. Any questions on the December financials?
Of course, I'm looking here. It's nice to see you. Thanks for being able to attend tonight. What stuck out to me when I was looking at the reports is the difference between what we budgeted versus what we actually did on the budgets from an expenditure standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's a sizable difference. I want to thank the administration for doing that, but do you think that was because we over budgeted in salaries, or why was there such a disparity there?
I did not develop that particular budget,
Okay.
but I can tell you from my standpoint, in developing budgets for many years now, that you typically will build a budget high enough to be able to account for. And a budget is considered an allocation. It gives you the authority to spend. Does not mean you really need to spend it all.
Okay.
So I would say it's kind of a combination of both. You want to make sure you have it there, or you could go after an additional appropriations. But if you have it, then you don't have to spend it. And I think for them choosing to keep some of those expenditures down was a very wise choice to help us move forward with positive for this next year.
So you also mentioned in our transfers from the education fund to the operations fund that we didn't use that full amount. Knowing that SBA 1 is sitting out there, might that decision come back to bite us at some point, or do you still think we're early enough in that process that we're all right doing that because of the cost savings and what we budgeted and not having expended all, and then still leaving about $1 million on the table there, and knowing the operations came over a little less?
No, I think we're still fine there with that. We still have room. Technically, you can transfer up to 15% from the education to the operations fund. And if you go over that, then you get on a bad, they're going to get on a bad
We've been
naughty
there
list.
before.
Oh, you have? Okay, I didn't realize that.
First year. It's been fun.
Okay, well, that's the only thing. We have to make sure that we stay under that 15%, and then it would be fine. And I do not see that because it is a really strong, healthy cash balance at this point. But I think it is important to really keep an eye on that and to continue to watch it.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And a nice year-end wrap-up. I know you have another one coming up, but it was nice looking at these numbers.
Pardon? I'm
It
sorry.
was nice seeing the numbers at the year-end, so it was nice. But I know you have a wrap-up too coming, so.
Yes. Yes, my goal would be to have those for you like earlier than what we have them this year, but thank you so much. Okay, so do I move on to the next one?
We need to,
Mr. Allen?
We have to vote on I think.
Oh, you have to vote on that,
On
okay.
this one first. And I will entertain a motion reference the 2025 December financial report.
recommend approval of the December 2025 financial report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Any further questions or discussion, Mrs. Babcock? Hearing none, we will vote on that motion. That motion passes 6-0. And now we're on to January 2026. Mrs. Babcock.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to cover the January 26th month-end reports for you. So if you look at the education fund, you can see where we have the budget listed, the new allocation for 2026, and then our revenue that we received. And I will say this was a 3-pay month. So just so you're aware of that, expenditures are a little high due to that. But overall, for this particular month, for January, we have 8.28% of our projected revenues that came in, and we expended 8.07% of our projected expenditures. And you'll see we have budgeted for this year, 26, ability to transfer $7 million into the operations fund when we need to do that, and we have not done that as of yet. Then moving on to the debt service fund. With the debt service fund, there is no activity because the payments will be due, the bond payments we will pay in June, and we'll receive the revenue in June as well. So there is no activity whatsoever in this one. I will say, though, when this budget was built, it was built specifically with the rate at 0.3999. At some point, we will need to do an additional appropriation for this particular one, like you had to do last year for 25. And that is just so that we have the cash flow there. It's just a matter of making sure that we have the authority, the allocation to pay that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And everything's in order there. If you move on to the operations fund, as you know, as I just mentioned, we do not have the revenue coming into this one other than some miscellaneous items, interest, miscellaneous, those sort of things. So we're only at 0.86% for our revenue coming in and 11.2% going out, which is pretty typical for a January out of the operations fund. And so overall, it's looking really healthy for January, considering it's a 3-pay month. Moving on to the rainy day fund, there is no activity whatsoever. We do not even have a budget allocation for this. Bless you. And so our cash balance with that is staying strong and steady at $3.9 million. Moving on to the expenditure reports for the education fund, at the very top with January. You can see there where we're ending that month for January at 14.5, and it is going down. We have to be very careful from the previous year in January of 25. That's something we just really have to be cautious of those expenditures, and I believe we are. I know there's been a lot of questions about adding different positions, things like that. We're being very cautious of those and making sure that we're doing it within the best interest for the students, as well as maintaining a healthy cash balance to be able to provide for all of our staff and community. For the Operations Fund, you'll see for January 26, cash balance is 1.7 million. And again, that is low compared to the previous year. There were some expenditures that were spent from the previous year in there, and that is kind of is going to reflect that. Also, as you mentioned, we did not transfer the full allocation or the full transfer amount, so that may have reflected a little differently at that point. But I feel like it's still safe at this point with where we're at. And any questions in regards to the January month-end statements?
So specifically in the operations budget, we have one line item, the 400 series, that's almost 50% of its, I'm assuming that's an oddity there, in the 400 series, almost 46% expenditure on that line item. Is it just bad timing or bad time of the year when that comes out? Because if we have a couple more pay periods, a couple more months like this, we're going to be negative in that fund until June. Is that just bad timing on some of those purchases, or?
A lot of them is, yes. And it may be a matter of, instead of transferring from the ed to the op on a once a year, we could do it more often, more frequently to help relieve some of that cash flow.
And I know we need to be positive in that at the end of the year, but is there anything, if we run a month or two in the negative until we get to our draw, is that going to be an issue? I'm assuming we have the funds available to be able to cover and letting that go into a negative. I know some of that negative is just because we have encumbrances that just have bills haven't come in. Is that going to be all right?
To run in the red?
Yeah.
I personally do not like to run in the red at all.
I don't either, but I was just trying to figure out how we're going to
Yeah.
take care of that.
I prefer not to go in the red. And in fact, I would try to, and I will, look at this to see if there's a way for us to transfer some of that a little earlier, just so we do not do that, because I would prefer not to go in the red.
Yeah, well, and the only reason it looks like we're close is because we got 1.2 in encumbrances, and that may just hold out, but it's just something it caught me off guard because typically, we would be about, 8.4%, and we spent 11.2% of this year. So it just catches me off guard, so I was just
Yeah.
curious.
No, you're absolutely right. It definitely is a concern to look at that, and especially if those outstanding encumbrances, as you mentioned, of that 1.2 there, if that comes due, yeah, it's not going to look.
Then we are down to 500,000.
Yeah.
Completely understand. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. And then moving on, we already talked about that. All right,
I just didn't, you weren't a great flow, so I wasn't going to stop you, but I was coming back to that one, so.
that's fine.
Reference the January 2026 financial report, I will entertain a motion.
Recommend approval of the January 2026 financial report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Any further questions or comments before we vote?
I do have a question on the rainy day fund. In December, it was the same as January. Is that not an account that develops interest on it?
The interest is received into our operations fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions?
We usually do that by resolution, but we probably haven't done that. But there is a resolution that the board passes that puts that in there. I just don't know when the last time we've actually done that. Maybe it's not part of the typical budget stuff that we do, but I do remember passing that resolution at one point that we had all our interest go into the operations fund.
Yeah. There is typically a resolution that's approved when you're transferring money into the rainy day or out of the rainy day. Yes, and so yes. You're correct.
Any further questions or comments? Alrighty, let's vote on the motion. Motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to 2026 mileage reimbursement.
So I asked the board to approve the mileage reimbursement rate at the federal rate, which is 72.5.
Thank you, Mrs. Babcock. I'll entertain a motion reference the mileage reimbursement change.
Motion to approve the 2026 business mileage reimbursement rate.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. Any further questions before we vote? Hearing none, we'll vote on this motion. That motion passes 6-0. Move on to E4, Administrative Stipend Request Perkins Grant.
Board, Mr. Allen, for your consideration tonight, Principal Drummond is here at my request. She does an amazing job. As you know, we are our own little entity now, and so the internal fine. There's always one coffee in this district, so now you have evidence. And so, Principal Drummond, I'm glad to see you tonight. And one of the things Tiffany does is not only an amazing job at the Learning Center, we know that. It is a tremendous amount of work that we've become our own entity. And one of the things that you have in front of you tonight, I've asked her to bring forward, and that is she did the Perkins grant, which is a tremendous amount of work that takes a coordination of a lot of different people from Huntington North and Learning Center, and just dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours. And this is our first run through it, and she did an amazing job. But one of the things that grant expects you to do is have a small percentage allotted for the person who does the grant, because it is a tremendous amount of work. And so she didn't do that, and I asked her to come forward and amend that grant so she could pay herself $2,573.97, which is expected in the Perkins grant, except she's also asking for 1/3 of that allocation, $12,086.98 for Peggy, who also helps her with the grant. Please know this didn't come from Principal Drummond. This came from Chuck Brimberry, because that is very standard. With the amount of work that you do, the grant assumes that percentage for the grant writer. And so, Principal Drummond, you can answer all the questions on the Perkins grant that they might have, but I appreciate you being here, and I also am amazed at the amount of work and excellence on the Perkins grant you were able to pull off this year. And I know you had a lot of people doing a little bit, but you and Peggy did an amazing job, so thank you for your work.
Thank you. And it's nice to see you all now. I'm happy to take any questions that you have about the grant request.
Could maybe you summarize, Tiffany, a little bit of what the Perkins grant is used for?
Absolutely, yes. So the Perkins grant is the result of the culmination of our comprehensive local needs assessment. So we did that last year for the first time. We invite in industry stakeholders and our CTE partners and our teachers to look at what the needs are for our district. We summarize that into some goals, the primary one being supplies and equipment to help modernize our shops. So that's what a lot of it is. Mrs. Easley does all the ordering for all of those pieces of machinery. It's added quite a bit to her plate. And we are grateful for her work on that, but that's what the grant is. So the bulk of it went to machinery and equipment in the form of a shear in our welding shop, which significantly helps that program because they can prep their own metal. So before we had to order it kind of like in pre-cut sheets. We can now buy it in bulk, which saves us money, and we prep it ourselves. So that was the bulk of the grant. The rest has gone into professional development for our teachers.
And Board, for transparency purposes, anytime one of our grant writers is a part of the grant, I try to bring that attention to you to make sure it is an awful lot of work on some of the grants, and it is a lot of monitoring. And so in the future, you always want to make sure that if you have a small percentage associated with the grant writer within the grant, that you openly discuss that for transparency purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. Thank you, Tiffany. Any further questions? I'll entertain a motion, reference this item.
I recommend approval of the administrative stipend request Perkins grant as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Any questions or comments before we vote?
Principal Drummond, we are glad you're okay, too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing none, we'll vote on the motion. That motion passes 6-0. And moving on to E5, approval of 2025 year-end appropriation transfers. Mrs. Babcock.
Yes, this is just a formality that's required for the State Board of Accounts to zero out or bring the accounts to a balance by the end of the year for calendar year 25 or budget year 2025. And so with that, a request, permission approval of this appropriation transfers.
Thank you, Mrs. Babcock. I'll entertain a motion, reference to request.
Recommend the approval of the 2025 year-end appropriation transfers as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Any questions or discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we'll vote on the motion. That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to E6, 2025 year-end and 2026 budget order financial presentation. Mrs. Babcock.
Yes, so you have a presentation there that is like a snapshot of the calendar year or fiscal year in 2025. We have covered most of this detail already in the December financials, but I will go ahead and go through this. And it just gives you the education fund, the December snapshot again that we've already covered. And then it goes into the education fund receipts, expenditures, and cash balances, giving you the 6-year comparison for your records so that you can see our adjusted cash balance there at the end as it was presented in the document earlier. As far as going into the next page with the education fund ending cash balance, receipts and expenditures for the 6-year comparison, there are 2 charts there for your review with the receipts and the expenditures showing those on that chart. And moving on to the debt service fund, showing you exactly what was just presented in the December financials. And so I will not go into detail with that since we've just covered that. This is actually something I've not done in my current district, so this is a new report for me, and so I wanted to keep it consistent for here. So if there's ever anything you'd like to see different, please let me know. I'd be willing to provide that for you. And then moving on to the debt service fund, the receipts, expenditures, and cash balances for the debt service, and those charts again for the 6-year comparison. And then the operations fund, looking at that for the December month-end or year-end, and the 6-year comparisons again. Then the last one is a 26 budget order, which is the certified budget, the certified AV, certified levy, and then the rate and the beginning cash balances for those particular funds. Just keep in mind when we say that we are expecting a levy in the operations fund of $12 million, we will not see $12 million revenue in that operations fund due to the circuit breaker. Any questions?
So I just, last week or the week before, I can't remember which. Was it last week when I went to the State House?
Yes.
They're all calling together. One of the underlying conversations, because it wasn't a budget year, but there were conversations starting to float around the State House, is the switching of how we do our budgets from a rate-based policy. No, it was going to a rate. Basically, they're saying that they're going from one, where we set our from levy-based to rate-based. And they were floating around the idea of basically capping the school rate at about $1. Looking at what we have here, it looks like our 2026 rate is 0.8755, is that correct? So we're under that dollar, so
That's
we're under
correct.
that dollar, so we would be in good shape?
Yes.
Okay. So just for everyone else, and I'm not sure, have you heard those conversations yet out of the State House, or?
I have not heard those yet. I have heard talk of potentially the lit being pushed back another year.
That was also discussed,
So
yeah.
that's, right now, it's supposed to go away in '28, and I have heard that that may be pushed back to '29 potentially. But I can see that potentially what you're saying happen if you look across the state and all the different rates for school districts. And that's one thing where we were very certain, and I know Mrs. Smith was very adamant on keeping that debt service rate at that 0.3999, and that is crucial for us because then it keeps us under that cap at 0.4.
Yeah, so the conversation basically was this, and this was, it's going to be a big topic. Basically, they were prepping us for the conversation happening next year during the budget cycle, is they want to move from a levy-based system because of the levy growths and all that have happened because of COVID and the growths in AV and all that stuff to a rate-based where you stay within your rate, and they're going to give everybody a total dollar amount, and then we were going to get up to $1. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I haven't seen the numbers, but that was definitely a conversation from the legislators that be prepared for that conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm just basically informing the rest of the board, when you start hearing that, understand that unless they drop it below $1, right now we're good. But if it comes down too much, we're going to then have issues that we need to pay attention to. But right now, as I look at it, and Michelle said, we're good. But it's something to pay attention to because not only do we have to worry about SB1 and some of the side effects of that, hopefully LIT gets pushed out another year to give us a little bit more time to understand the consequences. But if they then also then turn around and start adjusting the rate and limiting our rate, then we're going to have some other issues that we have to deal with. And that all of that funds that we're talking about is basically how we maintain our buildings. So if we have problems and to keep our buildings up, that's where it's all going to come from and what it's going to hurt. So.
Yes. Good point. Thank you.
Do we have any idea of, a comparable corporation and what they may sit at as opposed to where we're at?
So ISBA has basically seen the writing on the wall that this is coming. There's also some legislation out there to do some other financial studies that the legislature is planning on having DOE kind of do about that, but ISBA is also planning on doing a major study as well, just to get comparables, because this is a complete change in how we've done things for a long time. So they're going to start doing some of that, and I don't know if Mr. Brimberry has some additional thoughts or not, so.
Well, I would tell you, Mr. Allen, John and I's previous two districts, two different scenarios there, but one was about $1.03, and that was low for the area. And John at Concord, it was far higher than what. So we've been really good stewards over multiple boards, over multiple superintendents here, with the rate being low here, but also maintaining raises, cash balances, and operations, and so on. So Huntington has been relatively low compared to both mine and John's past. Mine was low for the area I was in as a superintendent, and it was 15 cents higher than here. So I would tell you it's a good question. I don't know where the area is now, but that's something we could certainly bring back to you.
Yeah, and I'd also say too, it's again to have those conversations about consolidation. We're also good because we're getting the tax base from the entire county,
Right.
not our small little area. It's going to affect those other smaller districts as well because they get to only the AV that's in their particular area. So it's going to hurt some people. Thankfully, I think we're good because we get the entire county to do off, but just other things to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt to have a bit of a debrief about this in the next few months, just to kind of keep our focus. I'm proud of the work we've done to be careful with our finances, but this is really uncharted territory. And at the same time, advocate. Okay, so we have voices and we have representation that we can reach out to. Don't be afraid to do that. I'm certainly going to. So.
We have a brand new senator that's very willing to listen and have conversations. So I had the pleasure of having him at lunch. I was going to talk about this during board, but he came to lunch, the ISBA luncheon, and sat and listened and asked how things were going, and I know he wants to, once the session gets over, he wants to get up and meet Dr. Degetz and the team up here, so we're going to work on getting that taken care of once that gets done.
Thank you again, Mr. Wall. Anything further? This was not requiring a vote, just information, but hearing none, we'll move on to E7, void state dated checks.
Yes, as a formality that should be taken to the board every year would be to take all of our outdated checks or stale checks that's 2 years or older as of December 31st of that year. So anything prior 2 years older than December 31st, 2025, and that is for corporation and ECA level, that we take to the board to write or basically void, and then they go back into the account in which they were written out of. It's a special process other than just voiding a check. And this is required by State Board of Accounts and per Indiana Code 5-11-10.5. And so with that, I request permission for them to void these checks and put them back into their respective accounts.
Thank you, Mrs. Babcock. I'll entertain a motion, reference this request.
I recommend approval of the list of outstanding checks voided by January and February of 2026. I think that's correct. Did I say that right?
I think you did.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Do you have any idea what kind of dollar amount this totals out to?
For the corporation, $676.47. For the ECAs, $3,017.67.
So as I look at that list, I see city utilities. I just wonder if we missed a bill. Did we reissue a check? Because city usually is pretty good. If we don't pay them, they let us know when they start adjusting our bills. So it's just odd that they didn't cash a check and stuff like that. And then I also see our former technology director on the list as well. Two people that I can think of right off the top of my head. Did we reach out to them and make sure? Did they lose the checks? I'm just curious. And I also see another former employee on there as well. I'm just wondering, did we check and reach out, or are we just doing this as a process and maybe didn't look at the list and think about it?
They should have reached out to the individuals.
Okay.
I have instructed them moving forward, because this was not a common practice in place here previously. So I instructed them to start working on those now. So anyone that is out, that's like right now, like maybe in,
A year out?
a year out, any of those that have not cleared, to start making those contacts now. So in case it's lost in the mail, who knows? And we can do a void and replace at that point and get them to the correct people. So, yes, hopefully the goal would be to not have this large of a list in the future.
There's a $200 check that someone might actually be very helpful to someone, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I don't want to avoid a check and not pay someone if we owe them funds.
Right.
So I'd rather work on that. It's just odd too to see the city utilities, because City of
That
Huntington
is-
likes to take their money.
Yeah.
So I would just want to make sure that we get that taken care of, so.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is correct, that it doesn't look odd. Now, if something should come in and, like, they say, well, you still owe this, of course, we're going to pay that. We'll be issuing a new check, because that particular check is too old and is now no longer available to be cashed.
Yeah, and so that's what we're doing with the corporation. And the other big one is the high school. Are they going to work on trying to reach out sooner than that as well?
They should be, yes, they
Okay.
should be reaching out to all of those people that, they should have made contact with them before even putting them on the list.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll entertain a motion, reference this request.
I thought I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, we
just
did
need a
that
vote.
one already.
Yeah,
it was-
I follow
you
proper
talk- you-
procedure.
you talk
Made
so
the
much,
motion, then asked the question.
Yeah, I'm not going to take the heat here. You talk too much for me to remember. Then we will go ahead and vote on the motion. Thanks, man. I know you are. I actually did it right that time. I did. That motion passes 6-0. Move on to facilities, F1, fire and security protection with Koorsen Fire and Security. Mr. Brenberry.
Mr. Allen, and board action item for your consideration. At the request of Director of Maintenance Rich Hurdle, he's asking for approval to accept a 3-year fire and security inspection proposal from Koorsen Fire and Security for the years 26, 27, and 28. He would like the board to know that this is the same company that we have had the past several years. We did also receive 2 other quotes for this that were both higher. So his recommendation is a 3-year contract with the same company who's been doing fire inspection, which is Koorsen's.
Thank you, Mr. Brenberry. And just to be clear, that that amount is annual, right? So $27,990. I'll entertain a motion, reference this request.
I recommend the approval of the 3-year fire and security protection and Koorsen Fire and Security as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. Any questions or comments before we vote?
Could this, I know I'm asking you questions for long terms, but could this be part of those contracts that caused that $11 million or $1 million in January? Is this something at some point we would want to maybe work with the vendor to maybe see if we could get it closer to like a June or July timeframe? So we could pay some of this stuff after we get our draw so we don't hit the operations fund so much? Because I'm assuming this is coming from the operations fund.
Yes, you're correct. It would come out of the operations fund. And yes, we could. Some of those contracts, I have had that before where they were just off cycle from the normal. And you can do that. You can negotiate and get them to align it a little differently.
So it's just better
Yeah.
from a budgeting standpoint and a cash balance standpoint. That's what I would want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Anything further before we vote? Now let's vote on the motion. That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to items of discussion by board members. Anybody got anything they'd like to talk about?
I kind of already hit it, but we did have the State House Day last week. It was good. There's a couple of interesting bills that are working their way through legislature right now. One of them is a bell-to-bell cell phone ban that is interesting, and another one is an immigration thing that is going to be in force upon passage, that we will need to do that. I know I gave Mr. Wiley, we had a conversation about this earlier, I gave a conversation about that to Mr. Wiley, but the bell-to-bell cell phone ban is also something that's going to be interesting. It's going to be using a similar model, or proposing a similar model to what Fort Wayne Community Schools does. So it's not putting it yourself, not putting it in your locker and just looking at that. It's actually securing it in secure storage during bell-to-bell. So that would mean kids either would not bring their cell phones to school, or if they do bring them, they would have to be secured in such a way until the end of the day. I would just want to start, if that does pass, we're going to have a conversation with our community and say, this is not our choice, this is the legislator's choice, and then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to implement that. So I just want to keep that on everyone's radar. It's going to be a little bit different. I know, I just know it's going to be something we need to keep our eye on. The other thing that happened recently was ISBA had their leadership conference. I think that was in January. That turned out very well. There is some great presentations I'm going to see if I can cut out and share with the rest of the board members. One of them is on Robert's Rules of Order, so we all need to just get a refresher on that, because I'm a nerd, I enjoy that, but it's all things, and if I have a chance, I'll share that with everyone and go from there. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Reference that cell phone change. Whether you agree or disagree with it, it is possibly going to be what we have to do. And I think you're correct. It needs to be made real clear exactly who's making the rules here. So, yeah, just be prepared to reach out to your people, or have them reach out to you, board members, as this thing goes into action, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of opinions. We've survived worse.
The conversation I was having is from my understanding here at the school corporation. I'd love to hear from Dr. Deggets and others, but what we're doing today seems to be working and not causing disruptions. So I'm not sure why they're trying to do this forcing of this, because they just changed it last year, and it really hasn't even had a chance to change, but
Well, Mr. Wall, I couldn't agree more with you, and I know several of you, board, have been to Huntington North numerous times, and they handled this situation very well in the school system. This is a high-achieving high school. When I've been to literally hundreds of classrooms, and cell phones out during educational time is not an issue on the majority of classes you would see at Huntington North. It's not an issue at all at our other buildings. And so when I compare what Indianapolis legislates, we will follow. But I will tell you, they spend more time on certain things like that that maybe aren't as large issues at Huntington, and we be compliant. I have been unbelievably impressed with the kids at Huntington North over last year's change. And we don't have as big an issue as what other districts have, is what I would tell this board. You can always do it better, but the issues that are in some areas on cell phone and education do not seem to be at the same level what I would tell you in this building. And I think that is a credit to our kids, parents, teachers, and then the administration here. You're always going to have a little, but I will tell you it's not been a disruption in the educational environment in this building. Of the 60 classrooms I've been in, I might have seen a couple during educational times, and it's dealt with very professionally. It's non-threatening, and they handle it well. So I would tell you, Ryan, we will definitely be compliant in the future. We'll follow it. We'll communicate well, but it's not a big jump for us.
Thank you, Mr. Brimberry. I would just like to draw attention a little bit to over the last month, there have been several organizations, teams that have had a lot of success. Looking at Mr. Carl, because he follows the wrestling programs pretty closely, and we had a lot of success in the wrestling programs, both boys and girls. Congratulations to them. I did see yesterday or last weekend our drum corps was in a competition. It's one of the first times they've been able to do that, and that's very exciting, I think, for that group. Our boys and girls basketball teams had some success this year. The boys actually start sectional next week, or is it this week, I guess? Week from Friday. And so then this weekend, the Midwest Showcase is going on with Varsity Singers Viking Volume. If you want something to do all day from 5 o'clock in the morning till about 2 o'clock in the morning, you can volunteer to help. And also I'd like to thank the athletic department, because I know the 1A semi-state was here in Huntington over the weekend, and hearing about the gym being full or nearly full, and all the people that spend literally a full day in Huntington County spending their money at our restaurants, spending their money at our places. It's pretty exciting, and so well done.
Mr. Allen, if I could ask for forgiveness. In my excitement of being here at the board meeting, I left off the High Ability Handbook, that when we were talking about handbooks, I need board approval for our High Ability Handbook. This was the second read, and it is revised, and we're ready to go. And so I know this is out of order, so I do apologize. I was thinking of the word FAPE, F-A-P-E, is free and appropriate public education, and that was what was in my mind, and FERPA wasn't. So again, as I'm getting older and maturing and having learning opportunities, that was what was coming to my mind. So
Jay, what I heard is he asked you a question and it just threw everything off. So it's all Tim's fault is what I'm hearing.
No, I'll take full responsibility, but I know it's out of order, and I do apologize. But just ask if we could approve that for the record, please.
So that was listed in with all the handbooks.
Does it need to be approved separately or not?
Well, that's what I'm questioning.
That's a great question. I
'cause
just
it
want to
was-
verify and make sure that Mrs. Kitchen
It's
is
in
still
the-
here and went through a lot of work in her committee, and just want to
whole
make sure it
list.
was in there.
Yeah.
Whatever is appropriate, whatever needs to be approved.
I would guess it does not need to be redone.
I mean, it's right
Mr.
here.
Wiley, is your
I mean, it's-
curls, are your toes
Yeah.
curling back there? It was part, it's
We didn't
list-
state it. We said student handbooks, but we didn't say anything about high ability. So that was left off. So if that's included and we're good, I'm good. I just want to make sure it was.
I mean, I'm more than happy to
Yeah,
amend my
I hear
motion.
him. Okay, what we're going to do is, just to make sure we are covered, I will entertain a motion, reference the high ability handbook request.
Or do you want me to just amend my original motion to add it?
No, at this point, let's do a new motion.
Looking at the way it's recommended for the action, I think it was, all of that was included,
And it's listed there.
and it's listed.
It's in the list of things that are listed with the student handbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If we need to do it again next month, we're here.
That's true.
Did you want to say something, Mr. Wiley? Yes. Okay.
And Board, I would say our board notes will reflect that it was listed and this was discussed, okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Wiley.
Before we move on, I completely missed this, and I want to go back to this. As part of the consent agenda, we approved the retirements, and I just want to call out those teachers and the classified staff. There's some very good names on there that this corporation is losing to retirement. I'm not going to name names, but just as a whole, there's a lot of individuals that are retiring, and there's a lot of experience that's going to be walking out the door at the end of the year, that I want to make sure that we give them their due and acknowledge them. So, Board, if you haven't had a chance, please look through that. You'll recognize the names on there, but they all deserve a moment for recognition. And I know I can't wait till the end of the year, because some of these people, I want to thank them for the years of service they've done, and there's going to be some big shoes that some schools are going to have to fill to take care of that. So just want to call them out, special about that, because as I was reading through that list, I'm like, oh, no, they can't retire. No, they can't retire. So just know that both on the teacher side and on the classified staff side, there are some very good people that have given a lot of years of service to this corporation, and I don't want to downplay that. I think it's very important, and I want to thank them again for their years of service here for the corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. You're exactly right. Anything further?
Yes, I would like to thank Mrs. Babcock for being here. It's so refreshing to have you here. We feel whole again. And for not only your expertise, your level of expertise, but your experience. Because folks, not everybody can do this, that's for sure. And also to Mr. Wall for his level of interest and expertise, not only in finance, but in legislation. You're such an asset for us. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Mrs. Babcock.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to H1 Superintendent Search Update. I'm just going to read a brief statement, bring everybody up to date as where we're at. Out of a pool of 14 candidates, the board is staying on schedule to conduct second-round interviews tomorrow and Wednesday evenings, and we'll then meet and discuss who will be our next superintendent. Once again, we'd like to thank the ISBA and the representative, Steve Horton. His helpful direction and experience has been a tremendous help. The selection of a superintendent is arguably the most important task of a board. Together, we felt it was best to use a multi-tiered full process to give the selection the thoughtful consideration it deserved. Board members should be proud of their work over these last 6 to 8 weeks. The finish line's in sight. Whoever ends up as our next superintendent will have earned that honor. That is our update. I will move on to I1. Anybody make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wall, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. I'm not doing